And then he gave the sand its limit. And we see in Revelation, right, the devil is cast down, what have you, and who is actually above who is clarified in the story, right? I mean, have you ever heard people argue that Herod or some kind of insignificant character like that was magically above, the righteous? It's stupid, right? You see the part in the Bible where it says, the one who's above is above all, and the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than the wicked, right? So the governing class likes to instigate, obviously, but a lot of these people out there are in their families, right? Some of their family members are poor. They're in different groups, gangs, corporations, what have you. And they have a way of hacking brains, okay, to insult people, So if you were like walking down the street, they can not only time it so that the conversation seems to be directed at you, and in a sense it is, because they're using that to kind of get at you and kind of push your buttons and sensitize you to certain issues and keep pushing those buttons. But they can also make it so you think that you heard something. So imagine some gang members are there, right? Say Bloods and Crips in LA or whatever, right? And one of them thinks that another one has insulted them, but they didn't. That's it should be very illegal. In fact, it is illegal for the government to do that. They shouldn't be hacking brains, what have you. Okay. So, on the issue of kind of who messes with who, right? I mean, this has come up time and time again with the government and me, where they're using every culture you can imagine, every race you can imagine, every place I go to try to have people put their heads up at me, what have you. And sometimes they show me some kind of respect too. Okay, say I'm on the road and I wave at you or something, and let you go first or whatever, right? And there's some kind of cordial exchange, right? And so there's some confusion in regards to who sees things what way and why. So, again, what would the morally precise person think, right? To a T, that's what I think, right? Now, that includes being mad at the world for rebelling against God. Okay, I'm sure we can all agree that is fair. Okay, if you're a part of, say, a gang and you betrayed that organization, and you're mad that you did, how mad could you be at the other members that you betrayed that organization? Yeah, and how mad could you be at, say, they had a leader, at the leader? Now, when it comes to God, how mad can you be at Jesus that you betrayed God and he's mad at you? Right, pretty straightforward. So growing up, I had a lot of, you might say good times with people. I had a lot of friends. Some people I have mixed feelings about or whatever, right? So I look at people and say, hey, that guy's cool and that guy's not so cool like everyone else does, basically. Except for I was one of the more fair people. In fact, I was the most fair person when it comes to giving people their respect and treating them fairly, what have you. Okay, so the government likes to try to push my buttons, right, and try to warn me. Say, you better not say this, you better not do this. And they say, is it because he's a Jew? And, it's a hyper version of, don't speak bad about the Jews. And there's when it comes to the European governing class, it's part of why I speak on it so much is because they threaten me and say, you better not say this. Okay? And the LGBT community, and I've clashed with gang members, mostly from other races, because the government likes to race bait. Not in the sense that, you bring up something that's logical, like some races, have more trouble than others. They have more births out of marriage, out of wedlock, right, than others, right? Blacks, Native Americans, Latinos, what have you. That's just stating the facts and trying to set things straight. It's not the same as making it about race or race baiting or whatever. So the government, what they do in my case, they race bait, if you will, with the best of them, okay? They try to start racial conflicts. They try to highlight the difference between gang cultures, the difference between dating cultures. And again, I speak on these things in a way that's fair, in a way that I could go to any community and tell them what has happened here and hold my head high, so to speak, and know that I did every group justice, every race, every group. Okay, I chastise them, yes, because that's the right thing to do. But I did them justice. I gave them the credit that they deserve. Okay, I was born in San Jose. I grew up around a lot of other races, Vietnamese, Hispanic, Native American, white, Jewish, you name it. Okay. At one point, my uncle on my white side was, he was living with, I guess he was engaged or what have you, maybe even married to a Hispanic female. And I even, sent them some Christmas presents, right? And so on and so forth. I have Jews in my family, white people in my family. I have African Americans in my family. I have Africans in my family. You see what I'm saying? I'm not some kind of racist guy. I'm biracial. But the government, nonetheless, because they want their Jewish or white or LGBT Jesus, they don't like that I'm heterosexual. They don't like that I've had the most handsome picture out there in a way that's fair. A handsome, hand of God. You can see the righteousness in me. And I'm not gay, but I can kind of compare things like most people can, or I can say that most people would consider, say, Fat Bastard from Austin Powers, and Austin Powers to be less attractive than, say, Brad Pitt. So I can kind of judge a certain way without being attracted to guys at all. So, to cover all these odds and ends, and I'm kind of, saying in a way to, not be too excited on purpose. Okay. When I've gone to different cities, in a sense, it's like always racial. Even when going to Oakland, there's different races there. It's like for the life of me, I couldn't find find a place to park that wasn't in it was in China town by downtown, I guess that is, and a little Saigon and on International in East Oakland. Okay, for the life of me, I couldn't avoid these places, right? It's just when they're sabotaging me and they're fuming me and they're doing things with their technology, it caused me to kind of wind up in these places. In fact, the first time I went to Oakland, or one of the first times actually, I think it was the second time, I pull up, on I think it was called Fruitvale. And it connects to International, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm both there. I pop out. I'm in the northern Hispanic neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the Oakland that well. And, that wasn't on purpose, right? And the last time I think it was, I went to Oakland, there was some guy with a Sharks hat at the bus stop, and he's running his mouth. And he says, you think about turning them against us, don't. Or maybe the government made it seem like he said it, right? Okay, and so there's a bunch of rich white Jews and LGBT people and token minorities and Freemasons and all the usual suspects, the people that are behind a lot of this stuff, the types that right? And I don't know who these people are by name or something, but I know their general type. And, they try to kind of try to get me to feel angry and to speak on things. Say, well, I do this or that or whatever, what people are likely to say when you kind of push their buttons, right? Oh, they better not, or I'd do this, or I'd call up this person. They try to get me to go down that path. And again, I'm the top martial artist ever. I'm not some new guy trying to prove himself. I'm 43 years old. I'm the son of God, okay? I look at things in the bigger picture. I've squashed beef in my times. I've shrugged things off. I've walked away from fights, and I'm proud to say that I've done so. And I encourage everybody to do the same where it makes sense. If it is the right thing to do, walk away, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Be the better man, as they say. And I 100% mean that, and I 100% believe in that. Okay, so, they do things, and you see with these news articles, these people who, die in the news. In fact, this gentleman got killed in Santana Row on Valentine's Day with his girlfriend. Very sad, very sad. That was aimed at me, believe it or not, okay? And they do things in a way that they're saying that they run this world and da-da-da-da-da. Now, you got to realize that this is biblical, right? This isn't territorial or racial. Those things, like, in a sense it is, but that's not my concern, right? This is biblical, okay? Satan is said to be the quote-unquote God of the world, and Christ, which is me, is the person who wins in principle over the world, and I reign forever and ever and ever. So when they say things like, okay, be careful who who you mess with, or I don't think you could take him, and they're crippling me and fuming me, I'm not going to be moved in the slightest, right? I'm the type of person, it's in their own book, who's willing to suffer the most painful death as a matter of principle, okay? They're already checkmated. Any possible move they can make is a failure. They hacked my brain, so any possible behavior, like maybe say I start crying or I start throwing up or whatever, okay? That's already accounted for too. They've been hacking my brain, right? Under all circumstances, the lion or the leopard doesn't have to prove it's tougher than, I don't know, a moose, a golden retriever, a jackal, whatever you want to put there. Okay, and I'm not aiming at any type of people in particular, just throwing some out there. Okay. So, I can't speak on enough. So when I went to Gilroy, right, when I was younger, I would say things like, that it's all love and so on and so forth. I can't say that anymore, because I've correctly defined love perfectly, and I'm reinforcing the truth about what love is. So I am angry at the world. I'm angry at every race and every person according to their deeds for being in rebellion against God. Okay, just like it is in the first part of Revelation where the churches are being chastised. Okay, I see some people that look cool, And I think, hey, it's a shame that it's like this, but I have to serve God Almighty. And I urge you all to scramble to do the right thing. I've gone, when I was at Gilroy one of these times, I prayed with 2 Hispanic females and one black African guy who I don't know. They were part of their group. And there was a white guy there, and he was welcome to pray with us. He didn't go in the circle for whatever reason, and that was that, right? And again, I'm not racist. I'm very approachable. I was like in the middle of making a video. In fact, I have it on record to some degree, where I'm in the middle of making a video. And I'm saying very controversial things at Christmas Hill Park in Gilroy, and these 2 females say amen, and they're like, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, man, I've been saying some controversial things, so let me try to kind of smooth this over. Let me try to help them understand what's going on here. So I say, I'm sorry if I was making too much noise. She's like, no, please don't stop. Please don't stop. I'm loving it. And they say something to this effect, right? She says, I'm loving it, right? And so when I drive away, I eventually drive back, right? Because I'm like, man, let me try to talk to these people, tell my YouTube channel. Let me try to, be a fisher for God, which is what I've been trying to do, right? In that sort of way. So I go back there and we talk and so on. I tell my YouTube channel and they never kind of get back to me. And it's safe to say that the government has threatened them to not talk to me. Okay. So when it comes to these kind of exchanges, all this stuff kind of needs to be considered, right? I'm not a gang member, okay? I come from the most fierce tribe on the planet, though I'm not a tribalist person. But I am a great warrior, the top martial artist ever, what have you, which is the Igbos. Let me tell you something about this. Again, I'm not a racial supremacist. I'm not trying to, scare anybody. I'm not trying to be bad or anything like that. Just helping you understand and also kind of expressing that part of me that, is not a punk and so on and so forth. I'm sure you can all understand. So the Igbos are such a fierce tribe that in the book Fighting for Honor, they describe the Igbo tribe, and there was a lot of people that helped them write the book, right, from different races, different martial arts, as a fiercely martial culture. Fiercely, okay? It's like some animals in nature, for example, are more fierce than others. Some people, some tribes are more fierce. It's fiercely, it's like Tookie, the part of them that's like fierce and tough, that's like an Igbo genes, okay? Tyson, you see what I'm saying? It's this fiercely, but they're more dangerous than these big, strong guys, straight killers, surgical strikes. It's where the Asians get the ideas for surgical strikes, right? For, the samurai with the samurai sword, that comes from the African prototypes of the swords, the precursors, right? The prerequisites, the swords that came before, the swords that came during, and the swords that came after. And there's all kinds of interesting discussion in regards to whether a thicker blade is better or a thinner, what kind of grip it has. These swords are often, basically always designed for certain body types first and foremost, certain types of swings, right? When the samurai sword was made, I'm told that it was made from farmers, a weapon that they used to farm with, and they had a certain stroke when they would strike the plants, and the samurai sword was modeled after that, okay? But it also ultimately comes from Africa. The Igbos are such a fierce warrior tribe historically. Remember, they die as caste, right? In my book, there is no racial competition anymore. The racial competition has been dead for maybe 10 years, or more, okay? Because of technology, because of tech, breeding, cheating, generational ill-gotten gains. We have no reason to say, hey, this guy from my race is tougher or cooler than that guy from your race. That's over with. They control breeding too much for that. There's too much fumes in the air and poisons. You can't really express yourself anymore. So whatever it is what it is. But the Igbos, okay, these certain types of Igbos are the bell that rings the loudest, to the point that the word Kuro Obi means black belt, and Obi, spelled backwards, is Igbo. And Obi in the Igbo language means King, Heart, Essence, Center, Temple, Core. Okay? And just like with the Bible, where there's a bunch of Romans, a bunch of soldiers, right? And they're, they rape people, they beat people, they flog them. You see the movie, The Crucifixion of Christ. They're trying to depict the brutality of the Romans. But they're like, bunny rabbits compared to the Igbo tribe. Fierce killers. And we see it in American history too. Again, I'm not a racial supremacist, just trying to make it clear why I'm taking the stance I'm taking and how tough my genes are and why I still am very gracious, because ver and virtue means man, not tough and tough guy or something, but ver and virtue. So anyway, black people historically were like 12, 13% of the population. White people, if you include white Hispanics, right, it goes to like, like 76%, but white people by themselves, they used to be like 67% like 10 years ago or so. Now they're like 62%. And again, I don't care about demographics. I think that whatever's fair is fair. I'm not trying to have my race take over, or non-white race people, or helping white people take over for some kind of bootlickers pittance. I'm not concerned with that. I'm not going to have any children, what have you. Okay? So, though black people are only 13%, okay, of the population, and they disproportionately took the most fierce of Africans, they took as slaves because they were sold by other Africans, right? The white man had guns, and if he really wanted to, he could go out there and capture a bunch of slaves. But how they happen to be sold by the most is by other Africans. This is something they couldn't accomplish before there was armor, before there was guns and things like this, right? They simply could not go into Africa. They would have been slaughtered. They're way outclassed, what have you. The whole world was. So he, it was like 1 or 2 million Igbos, not just Nigerians, but Igbos, came to America in the transatlantic slave trade. And so when you look at the history of America, you see Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, you see all these guys with the Igbo genes, right? Martin Luther King, and they're going beyond other groups of people, okay? And this is already understood. So when you see these, there's racist whites, Jews, and LGBT people, they're like, make it seem like our genes are superior. It's like, what are you talking about? There is no white, Jewish, or LGBT day or any other race day that's comparable to Martin Luther King Day. And the die is cast there. We know you like to play your statue game and your rewrite history game and redo music, right? There's no comparison to Tupac. There's no comparison to Jordan, okay? Now, I'm going there because I'm setting the record straight and helping you people in your group see that it is stupid to get at me on the level of, hey, I'm above you. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm from the royal family of Dr. Martin Luther King's tribe, okay? When the Romans in the book that's considered the greatest story ever told crucified Christ, people weren't like, wow, they're tough and they're above them, because they knew that's fucking retarded. They said Christ won in principle. Some people think that the miracles are figurative. Some people think they're literal. Some think it's a story about the stars. But all of them come to the conclusion that the Romans were bitch-ass motherfuckers compared to Christ. Everybody comes to that conclusion. Even Satanists, they might throw a fit. Fuck you. They know that. One of the first things you learn as a young person is why Christ is superior, and I do mean superior, to Caesar. And people go, no, I prefer it. No, they're bending over for neo-colonial people who raped and massacred people. And this is the reality of being a human being, of being sane. I mean, some of you might think I'm talking shit. I'm responding to the governing class lines, and I'm stating the facts. Okay? There's no words for how much I desired growing up to be friends with other races, whites, Hispanics, you name it, Vietnamese. My best friend growing up was part Malaysian, part Asian, part white. My other best friend, was part black, part Native American, and I think some other stuff that might be European or Spanish or something. I'm not racist. Okay, but as I look at this situation, how should a mulatto person who means to be morally precise explain himself to these arrogant governing class lines who've bred crypto this and that everywhere, as they try to put their nose up at me and say, I'm above you. When in this country, they have history of saying to black people, you're uppity, right? Know your place, boy, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay? They should know their place. In your own book, it says the one who's from above is above all. There's 380,000 churches. Okay? I was engaged to a woman who's part Italian, part Greek. After all that racism, all that foul shit that you did to black people, including me, especially me, I was able to shrug that off as a young man in my 20s and become engaged to a female who's Greek and Italian who was from Europe. I was able to shrug off all that. I've been in love with a Hispanic female. I've been basically in love with an Asian female, when I was a young person in grade school and summer school. I'm not racist. I give credit where it's due. Historically, Oscar De La Hoya was a pretty respectable boxer. I'm able to say that with no kind of bad feeling. I respect what he did more than what Tyson Fury and Usyk and these guys did, because they're just riding the wave of technology. Okay? I respect what Chris Mullin did more than, unless I'm missing something, more than Stephen Curry, because he's riding the wave of technology. I'm not racist. I'm able to say things that are true. Okay? So how I respond to the governing class using whatever proxy they have to insult me is, yes, I'm above you. And yes, the gap is increasing because virtue means man. Is it virtuous to sabotage me in a cowardly way with a bunch of racist geeks and nerds, dorks, dweebs, what have you? Acting like American Pie meets Rick Moranis, meets Freddy Krueger. Is that respectable? No. Be a man. Okay? And so as we look at this whole situation, right, growing up, there was various gang members. Some were more serious than others. Some put it down. Okay? I go as far as say black people, they killed more people historically, like, Baltimore, St. Louis, the murder capitals, right? There's lots of black, and there's a lot of Hispanics, people put it down, a lot of Asians. But is this a good thing per se? What are you shedding blood for? But as you look at the situation, I don't got to prove anything. I do not have to prove anything to anyone. I'm from the royal family of Dr. Martin Luther King's tribe. My father is a brain surgeon, came here penniless, worked his way up, 6'4", big, strong guy historically. Both of his brothers, one of them was a lawyer, graduated top of his class in white California, white America, top of his class. My father, an all-A student. He graduated top of his class, UC Berkeley, went to UC Santa Clara. I think he also graduated top of his class at Berkeley, and he was a professor at Santa Clara University. Not just UC Santa Clara, Santa Clara University. My other uncle is a doctor as well. Okay? I come from the top martial artist stock, the smartest stock in human history. You see what I'm saying? I could go to Oakland and raise my fist and act like a jerk and a tribalist punk, like so many people do from every race. And I'm not going to do that because that's beneath me. You see what I'm saying? But the government race space, okay, screw them, right? Don't have sex, so no. But you get what I'm saying. I treat people fairly. But I have to honor God by setting the record straight. When I point out Martin Luther King and Michael Jordan, is it to give black people some kind of upper hand socially? No. People already know this. And people, generally speaking, they don't like to hear someone point it out. It pisses them off more, makes them more tribalist, and makes them dislike the people pointing out more, generally speaking. I say it so the record is set straight. In the eyes of God and the righteous and everyone in the spiritual realm, in the eyes of everyone that matters, you racist, white Jews, LGBT, everyone else will never, ever, even for a moment, be seen as above me. I'm the top martial artist ever. Read Psalm 45. For those of you who are going to forget lots of stuff in this video, write down Psalm 45. The most excellent of men is the mighty warrior, riding forth in the cause of truth, justice, and humility. One version, New Living Translation, says mighty warrior. New International Version, mighty one. That's what it's getting at. Exodus 15:3. If you have any questions, the Lord is the warrior. The Lord is his name. He who sees the Son sees the Father. The word martial is marital, scramble, deny Christ and the bridegroom. So as we look at this thing, man, first of all, before I'm a man, first I'm Christ before I'm a man. And I'm a man before I'm a black person. Okay? And I'm a person that treats everyone fairly before I'm a black person. Okay? That's part of what Martin Luther King's message was. And I'm above Martin Luther King. I don't say this to bash him or his family, but it's right there in the word. It says king. I'm the king of kings. He's named after a white person that sought to cheat me like the churches seek to cheat me, to their extreme disgrace before God Almighty. Martin Luther was not right with God. Neither were the people who founded the Catholic Church or Orthodox or anything else. And respecting these people who insult God to the extreme, who refuse to rally and obey God through me after they've been cashing in for generations, is the wrong thing to do. Much less to put that before honoring God. That's not being a man. So as you can see, it's not smart for them to take shots at me. If you look at this video, you read the annotations, whatever you got to do, you look at Psalm 45, Exodus 15:3. Look at Proverbs. You see someone who's skilled in his work, he will serve before kings, not officials of low rank. And the Lord taught the king, trained his hands in battle, Psalm 18, and he left other tribes around, other peoples around, other nations around to teach the Israelites warfare, Judges 3. And I quote these things quite often, and I think about what they mean. I have thousands of videos where I quote a lot of scriptures that I've quoted a lot, but I've gone over so many books. I've read whole books. I believe I read Job, I've read Micah, Joel, Nahum, Zephaniah, Zechariah. Okay, I've read, I'm pretty sure I finished the whole, if not most of them, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I've gone over script, and I've gone over Revelation. I've read whole books. I've cited almost every book in the Bible, maybe even every book in the Bible I've cited before. Haggai, Obadiah, Genesis, Exodus, you name it. Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, you name it. So I'm very well versed in the Bible. And as we look at the Bible, I remind people all the time, the Bible is just a book, it's Bible. But there's ideas in there that are true. The Lord is a warrior, yeah. What do you think he is? A craftsman? Some occultist with a magic, like Aleister Crowley or something? H.P. Lovecraft, Madame Blavatsky? What, are you insane? You think being some occultist is better than being a warrior? You think being a bookworm geek punk that refuses to rally to the King of Kings is better than having the heart to rally to the King of Kings? What the hell? Then we see it reflected in various languages, right? Heart, heart, corazon, core, alpha zone, core. In French, the core of somebody. Now, I don't know these languages in their full version. But we see the European perversion, like in Spanish, right? Where they say, Jesus, right? They're pointing to Zeus, who's Baal's Greek equivalent. And Spanish is Latin rooted. And Latin is said to be the language of scholars and Rome and all this kind of funny stuff. Okay. So if you look at this thing, you can see that, yes, if you look at races as having martial art and warrior groupings, and you see the Igbo's the bill that rings the loudest, by them putting their beta chicken head up at me. Okay, and I'm not thinking of anyone specific, right? Just the general idea. They're challenging my position, and it goes far beyond being a gangster or being a president or whatever. It's on this cosmic level. It takes on cosmic proportions. And in the past, I've given authoritative utterances that are directed at them that are worse than all the insults that ever were put together. Potent, authoritative utterances trampling their spirit. They brought that upon themselves, and everyone yoked to them, racially or otherwise. And what for? You think I wanted this? Read the Bible carefully. You see the prophets saying that God is like, why are you doing this? Now I'm going to have to punish you, and it's sad. Right? My heart is, broken, but I'm going to have to punish you. And so it is with cutting people off from God. I would rather, and I'm sure you can all believe me real fast, have had my own place, had true love, maybe live by a beach or something, have a planet where it's worth having a family, little kids running around, making sure my wife stays in shape so those extra pounds that come with childbirth, don't make her less appealing to me. Just madly in love, madly in love. God is love. I would have been so madly in love. Maybe she would have been Hispanic and I would have been in your family. Or she would have been Greek and I would have been in your family. Or Asian and I would have been in your family. But the inhabitants of the earth wanted war with me instead. Think if I spent the rest of my life crying or yelling about who I want to, blank, okay, Kill, okay, I would be right. And who could hold it against me? The situation is the most serious ever. And some things we're not meant to, quote unquote, get over. Thank you.